Stories are written for posterity. My name is Osadmi B, and every week I will tell you a short story written by a Nigerian writer or author. That's the long and short of it. So without much ado, this week's story is by Peace Haruna, and it's titled Old Soldier. Dear whoever fishes out this letter from the time capsule in 50 years. In my culture, it is a taboo to count peppers. So, when our currency plummeted and $1 equaled about 2,000 naira, 4 Scotch bonnet peppers began to sell for 200 naira. 4. If you do not realize how strange and horrifying it was for my people, rewind and listen again and hear that I counted the peppers. One weekend, we woke up to the prices of instant noodles flying over the roof, and the beloved affordable and quick food became an elite meal. At this point, there was no poor man's food. If you were poor, the next step was to let starvation lay you in the cold hands of death. In our Face Me, I Face You compound, the walls were so thin we could hear the conversations had in other apartments. Sometimes, when the night aged and the neighborhood descended into silence, the orchestra of lovemaking would keep everyone tossing in their beds. However, this story does not start here. It began the day I overheard my neighbor saying that an angel appeared to him and told him to annihilate all the politicians in the country. Our cries have reached heaven, and I have been chosen to lead this cause, I had heard him say. We usually called him Old Soldier because he was a runaway soldier from Maiduguri who wanted to keep his true identity hidden, although he never stopped talking about his experience in the army. If the force was serious about finding him, he would have been caught 2 years before he got this his divine revelation to wipe out the government. When I reported what I had heard to my mother, she said, "Leave him. He has probably seen a demon. You know those creatures, they shape-shift a lot. They want to finish what they started with him in Sambisa forest. He does not have the guts to do a thing like that. Don't mind him." My brother snickered, scraping the leftover okra soup into his bowl of cold eba. After that brief conversation with my mother and my brother, I did not think much about Old Soldier and his divine revelation. Besides, there was a storm of worries stealing my sleep. Like the admission letter I had received to study mass communication, and my father's near futile attempt at scraping his minute pension to pay my fees. Zubi, the man who had a shop opposite our compound, expressed his desire to marry me. He promised to pay all my fees and upkeep till I was done with school. However, I did not know how to bring this up with my parents. I could already imagine the first words that would spill from their mouths. "Anibe, you are only 16. Don't get it twisted. I did not have any feelings for Zubio, but I had to consider his proposal because I hated seeing my father look so hopeless. I had already suggested that I could learn a trade instead, but my father would not have it. Neither would my mother. They did not used to agree on so many things, but on this one, this was an exception. They both agreed. My father believed in the power of education, but what did I get him? 28 years in the civil service with nothing to show for it. One evening, I was watching the television with my family when it was announced that a minister's son had been kidnapped. Normally, when people get kidnapped in my country, the Inspector General of Police would don his official attire and host a press conference stating that, "Please be rest assured, all hands will be on deck to bring the victims to safety and ensure that the perpetrators are brought to book." Then they would go silent till it metamorphosed into a forgotten case. What you should know is that in my country, if a person is abducted and the abductors ask for ransom, then there is some hope. But this only applies to financially buoyant families, mind you. But if a person is taken and the kidnappers don't ask for any ransom, then just forget it. The person has probably been fed to ritualists. After the televised announcement, I would not have suspected Old Soldier if he had not packed his bags and announced that he was traveling to see his sick mother in the village. In fact, he came to my parents to borrow some money, and my father hit him with his own sub-story about how he too was seeking funds for my school fees. Instead of sympathizing, Old Soldier said, "Make she go learn work now." You should have seen the scowl that spread across my father's face before he responded with, "Oga, safe journey o. Shishi, I no get." In the subsequent days, after the news of the minister's son broke, I could swear that I had never seen the police act so fast. They were actually searching. When Odion, my classmate, went missing, her parents reported to the police. The officers told her parents that they could not commence investigation until 48 hours had passed. You know children of these days. She's probably at a friend's place. That's what they said to her mother. I know my daughter. I know Odion. She would not disappear without telling us. Her mother had defended. Madam, calm down and come back in 48 hours. Your child may return. Odion returned. She was found in a canal a distance from her house. Her eyes and genitals were missing. 3 days after she was found, her father had a stroke and passed away. All of this happened within the space of 5 days. But the very same day this minister's child went missing, investigations began. The whole fiasco lasted a month. I was actually quite impressed with how Old Soldier pulled it off. During the first week, all over the state, there were raids of uncompleted buildings and traffic jams due to tight checkpoints. In the second week, a video began to circulate on social media. In the footage, a gun was pressed to the temple of the minister's son by a man dressed in all black. There were about 10 other people behind him, and all of them had their faces covered with masks. Honorable Minister, how does it feel to not sleep well at night, eh? We are God's divine warriors, and we will not let him go if you do not come to meet us. When my family saw the video, we recognized the voice immediately. It dawned on us that we were associated with a wanted criminal, and my mother warned us not to breathe a word about what Old Soldier had said. The police tried to track that video, but it led them to a cyber cafe in a slum downtown. They arrested the owner, but they did not get anything meaningful out of him. After 3 days, he was released with an array of wounds and bruises. In the 3rd week, things began to get more interesting. The minister offered 500 million naira to the kidnappers, but they refused. Then he offered 1 billion naira, and they still refused. They insisted that he must meet them personally. These people are stupid though. Do they know what 1 billion naira will do for them? A neighbor said. Well, according to them, they say they want to create a better country. Another neighbor replied. With what? Kidnapping? Nonsense. Does one fight evil with evil? Well, let's just wait and see how the minister will handle this, said another person. To our surprise, the minister agreed to meet with them. Their conditions were that he would meet them at a secluded place of their choice without any security personnel or gadgets. The meeting place and the day was not revealed to the public, but there was no way the government security agencies would not be informed. So I kept my eyes on the television to see how events would unfold. The following week was unbearably silent, like the calm before a storm. That Thursday, around 9 p.m., the lights in Old Soldier's apartment flickered on. I peeked through the keyhole in our door, and I saw Old Soldier rush out of his apartment with a suitcase. When morning came, my family and I sat before the television as the newscaster suddenly announced that the leader of the kidnappers was killed at noon the previous day, and that the rest of the gang members had been arrested. Then, the minister's face came on the screen at a press conference. I want to thank the beautiful people of this country for their support. It has been a very difficult time for me and my family. And I am glad that my son has been rescued and he is home safe. It is my utmost belief that every citizen of this our great nation is entitled to security and protection from this kind of evil. Thank you all once again. I was confused. I was certain that it was Old Soldier I had seen the night before. So how could he have been killed the afternoon before? Okay, if he was killed, then who did I see? And what exactly transpired between the minister and Old Soldier? 6 years have passed since that incident, and Old Soldier has not returned. The whole issue became a topic of discussion for months, and it earned the minister empathy from the masses, which he then used to win the next presidential election. According to him, he understood the plight of the people since he had had his own fair share of challenges. He began to raise the profile of crimes involving kidnappings. Support was then given to families who were navigating rescue attempts, and then mental health care was provided for those who had been safely released. For a moment, I thought Old Soldier's plan was working, that now a member of the ruling class had experienced such an ordeal, there would be more action taken towards tackling such issues. But I was so wrong. When the minister now became president, things returned to how they used to be. As for me, well, I never got to study mass communication. My father could not raise the money for fees, and I had to learn a trade, tailoring. Sometimes, I stand in front of the mirror in my shop and I pretend to be a newscaster. It often makes my apprentices laugh. Maybe one day I will get to study mass communication. Nevertheless, I am so glad I did not marry Zubi. Having your own money is exhilarating. If you are still reading this letter, my hope is that the future you inhabit is better than the reality I find myself living in and writing from. I pray you do not have to substitute your dreams because your nation is a metaphor for a crumbling house. I hope you are happy. Yours sincerely, Anibe Diogbonge Taylor. Peace Haruna is a creative writer who resides in Abuja. She is an editor, volunteer, and storyteller for human rights. Her works have been published in Brittle Paper, Kalahari Review, the Shallow Tales Review, and the North Dakota Quarterly, amongst others. You can read more of her work on her Substack publication, The Beloved, and connect with her on Instagram at Peace Haruna 9 and on X at Peace U Haruna. Details and links will be in the episode description. If you've got a story you would like to be featured on this podcast, or a published book you want to make into an audiobook, send an email to info@osadumebi.com or send me a message at osadumebi on either Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or X. I look forward to collaborating with you. And if you've enjoyed this week's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and tell someone, everyone, that stories are a good escape for a few minutes each week.